All right, my friends. So, taking a look at Loki episode 4. This episode came on really strong and had a lot of ambition after, I would say, a pretty quiet episode 3. This particular episode, just so much happens narratively, and I so dug it overall. I thought it was an amazing episode. So, basically, in this episode, it starts off and it picks back up right where Loki and Sylvie are about to experience the apocalypse, but then they're kind of sitting together, they're talking, they're like touching hands, waiting for their imminent doom. It actually almost creates an entire Nexus event, and pretty much Mobius and the rest of the TVA see this. They're able to go find out where they are on Lamentus, grab them, pull them out, and then return to the TVA. And then more questioning ensues between Mobius and Loki, but not before Loki can kind of spill the beans and say that the TVA aren't who they say they are. And for those of you who might have missed episode 3 or don't remember, recall that in episode 3, the one big nugget of information we got was that Sylvie said that the TV agent that she was trying to get in the mind of, it was C20. She was looking at memories from her past, meaning that she actually had a past life on Earth, meaning that all the other TVA agents are applying or implying that all the TVA agents were in fact people and weren't created by the Timekeepers. So this episode kind of plays off of that, and it mostly follows Mobius and B-15. They're kind of investigating this hunch, trying to find out the truth of who they really are as agents and who the TVA really are. Another thing I liked about this episode, we get a few laughs in there as well. At one point in the episode, toward the end, Loki says, I don't know how many times I've died, I've lost track at this point, which is kind of a really funny meta moment because Marvel has this habit of killing off Loki and then bringing him back somehow, killing him off and bringing him back somehow. I thought it was a really funny meta moment. But anyways, back to Mobius and B-15 trying to figure out the truth. So basically, Mobius kind of goes off to for try to figure out whatever truth there is and what Loki is telling him basically about the TVA being liars. So basically, Mobius starts off with Ravonna. He ends up getting her device, her telecom device, whatever it is, and then figures out that C20 was actually reset or killed or deceased or whatever because she figured out that, oh, hey, I had a life before I was a TVA agent. And then Mobius, he figures out that little bit of information, goes to find Loki to do whatever else is there to do next. Well, right when he goes and gets Loki, Ravonna and a few other TVA agents are there to stop them. And what does Ravonna do? Oh my god, she has Mobius reset, which holy shit, wow, this was I wasn't expecting that at all. I was kind of bummed out because of the fact that I really liked Mobius a lot in episodes 1 and 2. We didn't really see him in episode 3, but and then he had been doing great episode 4, and then he gets erased, and I was like, man, that really sucks. But then again, I remembered, well, the amount of times that they've killed off characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and then have brought them back, I'm not too concerned. I'm pretty convinced Mobius will be back later on, but still, it was a holy shit though moment that I wasn't really expecting. And one other thing I forgot to mention too during Mobius's line of questioning to Loki this time around was the fact that Loki actually reveals that he's got feelings for Sylvie in that apocalyptic moment when they're kind of just with each other that creates that Nexus event, right? Or it gets really close to creating the Nexus event. And it's because of the fact that Loki is essentially, I believe, it's this might just be a theory, is falling in love with the version of himself, which is in fact Sylvie. So really interesting stuff overall. But anyways, Mobius gets zapped, and then I actually want to take this opportunity to kind of cut over to B-15 because, like I said earlier, she's confiding in Sylvie at this point to figure out the truth as well. So she takes Sylvie to an apocalyptic event. It's the same exact one from episode 2, if you don't remember. And she says, "Show me my life before the TVA." And she also has this realization. She realizes that she herself is a variant and that she had a life before she was a TVA agent. So they go back, and at this point, Ravonna catches both. Sylvie still sitting in her cell, and then Loki, obviously, with Mobius, and then brings them both and escorts them actually to none other than the Timekeepers. So I wasn't expecting this in this episode, but we get to see who the Timekeepers are and what they're kind of all about. Not really too much is said or done before a fight breaks out. So basically, B-15 comes down there, basically breaks it up, frees Loki and Sylvie over the collars, and then they all start kicking each other's asses, which is kind of fun. At the end of the day, everyone else is dead besides Loki, Sylvie, and Ravonna is knocked out because Sylvie gave her a good old haymaker right to the jaw, which was very satisfying to watch for some reason. She really wound back and just wham! It was great. But anyways, so the timekeepers kind of stopped. They're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Wait, Sylvie, you're a variant. We can talk." And Sylvie goes, "Oh yeah." And it takes the scythe and just whoo, decapitates one of them. Well, something else happens that we didn't quite expect. It turns out the timekeepers are just robots, which that in and of itself just begs a million other questions overall. So now it's like, all right, then Loki puts this to us. Who created the TVA? Why are the timekeepers there? Who was controlling the timekeepers? That's stuff we're gonna have to look through throughout the rest of the latter two episodes that we got going on. So I'm really curious to find out exactly what's going on with that. One other thing before I start getting and wrapping up the episode, there's one particular arc that I forgot to talk about, which is Sylvie's reflection on her childhood and her life up until this point. At one point in the episode, and I'm really happy that they did this, Sylvie recalls the moment that she was taken by the TVA as a child. She was really, really young, she was really small, and she was actually taken by Ravonna. So her and Ravonna actually have a little bit of history, believe it or not. And she reveals in that very beginning part of the episode with Loki that she thinks that she was essentially taken by the TVA because of the fact that she was born a female version of Loki, because apparently all Lokis are supposed to be male, or at least that's the impression I got from what she was telling us. So I thought that was really interesting overall. But then fast forward to when her and Loki are getting escorted by Ravonna, and she asks Ravonna, like, when I was a child, what was my Nexus event that caused me to get taken? Because it took away my entire life. And Ravonna says the worst possible thing I think you can say in that moment, and she says, I don't even remember, which is kind of fucked up because of the fact, like, okay, Sylvie was taken when she was a child by the TVA. It completely changed the entire course of her life. She's been on the run from the TVA her entire life since she was a child. So decades probably she's been on the run. And for something so major in her life to change the course of her life, and then for the person who did that to not even really remember why, it's kind of a slap in the face overall, and I can see why Sylvie gave Ravonna that nice big haymaker at the end of the episode there, because I would want to do the same thing as well. But anyways, we get to the very end of the episode. Loki begs the question, who created the TVA, and he's about to sort of confide in Sylvie and tell her that he's got feelings for her. At least that's what was implied from what I was seeing in the episode. And just as he's about to tell her, Ravonna wakes up and zaps him, resets Loki, which creates like the third or fourth holy shit moment of the episode is Loki and Mobius both getting zapped. Like that really, really sucked. But then again, it goes back to what I was saying with Marvel killing off characters and bringing them back again. I'm sure that there's going to be more that goes on. And then from this moment on, Sylvie just takes control of the situation, basically has Ravonna at reset point because she's pointing the baton at her and says, no, I'm not going to reset you. You don't get the satisfaction. You're going to tell me everything that I want to know. And then the episode kind of ends right there. And there was a post-credit scene for this episode as well, and it's basically it changes my whole perspective on the concept of resetting in general, which is another thing I liked about this episode. Loki wakes up in like a post-apocalyptic New York. The reason why I say New York is because in the background there is like a destroyed, desolate Stark Tower. At least it's the same shape as the Stark Tower. Who knows? But he wakes up next to a whole bunch of variants of himself, which I thought was really interesting. He wakes up, he goes, "Oh man, is this hell? Am I dead?" And they're like, "No, not yet. You're not. But you should come with us just to be sure that doesn't happen." And that's where the post-credit scene ends too. So I have so many questions leading out of episode 4 that make me really look forward to episode 5. First of all, before I get into episode 5, what did we learn about episode 4? Basically, the timekeepers obviously aren't really who they seem. The TVA in and of itself probably isn't what it seems. Who's really controlling the TVA? That's what I really want to know. And also that the concept of resetting isn't quite as concrete as I thought it was. Like when my initial impression of resetting was the fact that it basically just erased whoever was being reset out of existence. Like it just completely, it was basically like death, essentially is what I thought it was. And from that post credit scene, I can kind of see it's a little bit more complicated than that. It transports them somewhere when they reset. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, I think there's a really solid chance that Mobius and Loki are both going to somehow get back to the TVA, get reunited with Sylvie, and figure out what the heck's going on. And I think that the conclusion of Loki might lead into maybe some sort of Marvel movie. That's just kind of a light theory right now, but definitely I think we'll see Sylvie, Loki, and Mobius all teaming up again by the end of this series. Me personally, what am I looking forward to really in episode 5? Basically, who are the timekeepers? What information is Sylvie going to get out of Ravonna? What's next for Loki and Mobius? Are they in fact going to get out of their current situation of being reset, or what's that whole process like exactly? And then finally, what else is there to the TVA? Because there's obviously way more to it than it meets the eye. I thought I understood the TVA like the back of my hand. This episode very much definitely proved me wrong. So, ladies and gentlemen, if I had to give like a final score for this episode, I would say I give it a 9 out of 10. I thought it was amazing. It was packed with a lot of great character exposition, a lot of great character relationships developing, a lot of really rich storytelling, and it wasn't too much to the point where I thought it was overwhelming or too dense. So, good on the show for doing that. And I cannot wait for episode 5. I'm already counting down the moments. But now, my friends, I ask you, what did you think of Loki episode 4? Whatever you think, comment below and let me know your thoughts.